Ben Pfahlert and Rob Nichols, and Ben's with MTS, one of the partners here at Geneva Push. I'm a Queenslander, Ben, and I don't hear too much about MTS. The first time I heard about it was 10 years ago because friends went to Club 5 in Sydney. That's not around anymore. Tell me about what is MTS?
Yeah, MTS our mission is to multiply gospel workers through ministry apprenticeships. So basically what we do is we have a sort of a 4-stage strategy. First stage is we challenge godly men and women, Bible study group leaders, youth group leaders to consider a full-time gospel ministry in the future. But when they come to a conference, we have a bite-sized challenge of doing the second phase, which is a ministry apprenticeship to test their suitability. So it's a 2-year hands-on full-time ministry apprenticeship under an experienced pastor. And provided that goes well, then they get theological education. They go and do formal theological education after that and come out into stage 4, which is mentoring, discipling, growing young leaders who the whole thing cycles around again. So yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, great. And how is MTS partnering with Geneva Push?
Yeah, well, we're partners because Geneva Push's goals and our goals pretty much line up. I mean, we pray fervently that 10% of Australia would become Christians by 2020. I know a lot of Christians have conniptions when I say that, but I'm just praying my guts out that God would do a mighty miracle, because if he can turn Nineveh around in a week, he can turn Australia around in 4.5 years. So we pray hard for that. We're also, as I mentioned, on about multiplying gospel workers through ministry apprenticeships. So how do we tie up? Well, Geneva's just on about reaching Australia with the gospel, and I love coming to this. This is one of my most encouraging couple of days in the year because it's people on gospel roids, like everyone here's on peptides. It's fantastic. It's how it should be, like, you know, not going to conferences and talking about stuff other than making and growing disciples. And also the Geneva Push is, as part of its DNA, has written into its operation and strategic thinking to multiply church planters through church planting apprenticeships. So the two organisations get on well.
Yeah. And so for a lot of church plants, and this is something I've heard many times before, the idea of planting pregnant.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like with MTS, how does it benefit Geneva planters?
Yeah, I think there's a few benefits. Like an apprenticeship benefits early in the Geneva process. So if someone's being assessed as a church planter, if they've done an apprenticeship, it's easier to assess their suitability for full-time ministry and the difficult task of planting a church. Also, MTS helps because when a planter goes out, they go out with a team, not just alone. And also I think there's that multiplication factor. It produces, well, we've always thought it produces better planters, and Scott assures me that this recent survey and research that they've done proves that the likelihood of a church plant lasting longer, one of the big factors is involvement in a church planting team in the past. And that intuitively makes sense. It's great to have the data now.
Great. And just thinking about future or even presently, innovations that's happening with MTS, like how can we improve a partnership with Geneva?
Yeah, well, we're working really hard to train our trainers better. So we've got a course called Passing the book about apprenticeships is called Passing the Baton. It's written by Cole Marshall. You might have heard his name before. It's a fantastic book. It's just the guts of the apprenticeship, where we've got Passing the Baton workshops. We've got Strand 1, Strand 2 now, so the why train apprentices and then the how train apprentices. Also, what we're doing is getting coaches for first-time apprentice trainers. We picked up this coaching idea from some organisation, I can't remember who, you guys. And so we're helping out there, and also by the middle of the year, we're working hard to make the user friendliness of the MTS curriculum much greater, so that by the middle of the year it's almost idiot proof in how to train an apprentice in a nice way. Yeah.
It's really interesting that, like, hearing all this stuff, it sounds like we're really spoiled in a sense of like the partnerships that we do have as church planners here in Australia and all the training that's available.
Yeah.
Just to see the church multiply in Australia, I think it's great that we have that partnership with MTS.
It's great for us, brother. It's
Yeah.
great for us.